Here's a reminder of what's been called the biggest fraud in music festival history.
The most insane festival the world has ever seen.
Pablo Escobar's Island, and I said, oh my gosh.
The biggest event in a decade, I promise you. I'll be there.
I mean, everyone's supposed to be here, like Bella Hadid, Kendall Jenner.
Kendall Jenner was reportedly paid $275,000 to hype
Fyre Festival.
The cultural experience of the decade, Fyre Festival.
Oh no! Turn this bus right around.
Concert goers stranded with little to eat and just tends to sleep.
You're stranded.
I am stranded in the Bahamas.
Plain cheese sandwiches and salad after the chef backed out.
Fyre Festival, it's an absolute circus. I don't know what's going on.
It became this looting mentality.
Mattress on top of the head.
They brought out the luggage in 2 big containers.
So everybody's walking around with their cell phones trying to look for their luggage.
The Fyre Music Festival creator now arrested and charged with wire fraud.
Then they Rules Festival.
So they're trying to blame somebody.
Hold up. Yes.
Billy, should we have any concern about the FBI?
I don't know. I think that's an individual thing.
FBI, open up!
But let's take it back to where it all started.
It's 2013. A prince is welcomed into the world, there's a new social media platform in town, and Miley Cyrus seems to have finally found herself. But more importantly, our protagonist Billy McFarland has started his first big company, a credit card club called Magnesis.
This is Magnesis. It's the newest, coolest credit card that you, Bill Spadia, probably can't get.
But this wasn't a real credit card. This was simply a way for millennials to mimic the luxury appearance of the American Express black card.
And I found a way to copy my debit card onto the sheet of metal. And I did it. I'm like, it works. I can go to the store and buy stuff with it.
And at only 22 years old, Billy manages to collaborate with huge artists, secures $1.5 million in investor funding, and his very own members-only townhouse. Billy was starting to believe he could take over the world, and it didn't take long before others started believing it too.
It's $250 a year. There's an application to get it, but unlike a traditional credit card, it's not credit score based. It's all community based, and we're really just looking for interesting people across all industries.
One of those interesting people happens to be a certain hip-hop artist.
Ja Rule is taking his talents to a new business. The rapper lending his creative mind to an elite credit card for millennials.
Ja Rule would join Magnesis as the company's creative head, and boy was he creative.
Ja Rule, so many celebrities become brand ambassadors for something or other. Why'd you choose this?
It's a very unique situation. Whenever you can marry the affluent with the less fortunate, you get the birth child.
Hi, wait.
Which is called hip-hop.
Okay, but this isn't called hip-hop. This is called the credit card.
This is a credit card.
Both Ja Rule and his partnership with Magnesis made absolutely no sense. But neither of them needed to, because this partnership would go on to create a very close friendship.
Just had a great Magnesis Plus launch party in DC.
And as more time went on, Billy and Ja would eventually become inseparable.
Happy birthday to my brother, my partner, Billy in the building. Happy birthday!
Combining the powers of a hip-hop mogul and a young tech entrepreneur, Billy and Ja would eventually start a new venture, a social media app that the pair thought would be fire.
I am co-founder of Fyre, me and my brother Billy, and this is what we call a moonshot. Welcome! We are here at the Web Summit. We made it!
So Billy and Ja managed to finesse their way into the biggest tech conference in the world. In this economy, the pair knew that being able to harness attention directly equated to more money. So this wasn't just a conference. This was a heist, a great way to bring in new money and clients, and a new opportunity to get their social media app in front of as many eyeballs and on as many screens as possible. But Ja's skill set isn't exactly public speaking, so Billy, you're up.
Well, I'm gonna let my partner in crime here, Billy McFarland,
give y'all an introduction of what Fyre is and what it's bringing to the table.
I went to Instagram and found this guy named Reggie Muscles who claimed to represent and know Ja Rule. And he said, give me $500 and I'll get you Ja Rule. I paid Reggie Muscles. The next day, Reggie Muscles brings in a guy named Big Fred. Big Fred says, give me $500 and I'll get you Ja Rule.
Show me the money.
I pay Big Fred. This happens 2 more times until I finally meet a guy named Gutter. Gutter's a little smarter now, so Gutter asked for $1,000, and he said, I'll get you Ja Rule. So I gave Gutter $1,000. And Gutter called me a week later saying, Ja Rule hates your offer.
Booking musical talent can often be a terrible experience. So what if there was an app that streamlined the process and made it easier for all parties?
Well, one of the problems that we're really tackling is the nasty business of booking.
The app would have a range of talent, you'd be able to scroll through and pick the artist you wanted for your event, and from there you'd have an easy way of booking that artist without the fear of getting scammed.
And because he had these 4 or 5 guys, like Reggie Muscles and Big Fred, pretending to represent him, he loses out on a lot of revenue. And that's why he built Fyre, to change all of this and to make the entertainment industry more accessible and transparent through technology.
And just like that, the Web Summit heist was a success. Billy was able to deliver an engaging explanation of the Fyre app, and Ja made sure he only answered questions using 1 word at a time.
Absolutely.
After a successful heist, Billy and Ja would celebrate their victory in the Bahamas. And it was around this time that Billy would come up with an idea that would change his life forever.
I think the idea just popped up in his head like, ping! We're gonna throw a festival, yeah.
Fyre team said they wanted to do a music festival in the Bahamas, but they wanted to do it in only 6 months.
Billy's plan was to promote the Fyre app with his very own music festival. And although Billy had no experience organizing such an event, what he did have was 8 figures of venture capital. So he got to work and put together the best team that other people's money could buy.
They just bought an island. We got ours for $10 million, freehold land, no lease.
They were hiring the best of the best in each category. Best talent, best distribution, best social media company.
In the background, Billy was forming his own team of Avengers. And when it came to promotion, he would handpick 10 individuals who would come together to create the greatest marketing team the world had ever seen.
Supermodels. I'm talking about supermodels. I thought it was the best thing ever. I thought, it can't get no bigger than this.
It was the titans of the modeling industry. Bella Hadid, Emily Ratajkowski, Hailey Baldwin.
Basically, they're 10 of the top supermodels in the world.
Get ready, baby. Fyre Festival coming in April.
By 2016, Billy knew that social media figures were beginning to overpower the influence of traditional mass media channels. No one was hooked on cable TV anymore. The masses were now glued to their phones, and influencers were capitalizing on this with their own brands and their own paid promotions. However, creating a successful advertising campaign isn't just about paying off the right influencers. You need a sophisticated strategy. Because if you've been on Instagram for a while, you've probably noticed the sameness that appears on your feed. So throw in an orange tile, and now you've created visual disruption. Throw in 400 coordinated orange tiles, and now you've successfully weaponized social media.
We had 400 musicians, athletes, models, actors at the same time post this orange tile to Instagram.
For a short period of time, the orange tile campaign captured the attention of the entire internet. Everyone on Instagram was suddenly fascinated with this ambiguous tile, and the only way to cure their curiosity was to inspect one of the many posts, which linked to the now infamous video.
The actual experience exceeds all expectations. It is something that's hard to put into words. All these things that may seem big and impossible are not. It gives people that type of energy, that type of power.
This was not your average festival promotional video. Fyre took on a completely different approach to marketing. They weren't marketing a festival. They were marketing a pipe dream.
We are selling a pipe dream to
We're selling a pipe dream to...
The festival was to be held on Norman's Key, a private island which had ties to a certain Escobar. The owner of the key made it very clear that he didn't want that name associated with any of the marketing materials. And Billy, being a man of his word, would promise to respect that wish till the day he died. Guests were to be flown in on private jets, they were to be fed the most luxurious food, and as for the musical acts, Major Lazer, Disclosure, Tyga, even Kanye was going to be making an appearance. Of course, the majority of these hadn't been paid yet, but none of that mattered, because if there was one thing that you could take from the Fyre Festival promotional video, it's that sometimes it's better to just fake it till you make it.
I mean, literally, like, it's everything you can think of under the sun in the Bahamas, and get this, Ja Rule is partnering with me on this. Yeah, I'm serious, man. Ja freaking Rule. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Exactly. Yeah, he says he's always on time, so it's the perfect time to jump on.
Investors are the worst.
Investors are a move. I'm all about holding on to my equity. Full ownership, total control.
Actually, I was gonna talk to you. You should put some money into this. My list of investors is pretty A-list.
Invest in some party for out-of-towners.
So shady. It's gonna be huge.
Thanks, but no. It's too small scale for me. By the way, Billy, last night's scene was way out of control.
It was a party. You're not supposed to be living here.
Lightweight.
After selling out his first music festival, Billy had a very real logistical problem. The festival didn't exist.
So we ran into a little issue today.
They were told not to use the word Pablo Escobar, and then they used that in their first social media tweets.
6 or 8 weeks out, he had to find a new location on a neighboring island and then start the whole process all over again.
Billy manages to find an alternative island, but it certainly isn't private. But that's okay. There's nothing a little Photoshop can't fix.
This is a parking lot on an undeveloped portion outside of Sandals Emerald Bay Resort.
So Billy basically rents a construction site, and he's so sure that the guests were gonna love it that he doesn't bother updating any of the marketing materials.
There is some infrastructure, but the problem is this site's a complete gravel pit.
It's nothing like that trailer that they shot.
We were building a city within a city. In terms of waste disposal, in terms of restrooms, water.
As the first weekend got closer, guests began asking for snapshots of the living conditions. But for some strange reason, the Fyre Festival Instagram page became quite unresponsive. Legitimate questions were being ignored, and in some cases, even deleted. What airport are we flying out of? Don't you think that's a little important to tell your customers?
Message deleted.
But hey, back at the job site, Billy was building a great reputation with the locals, hiring hundreds of Bahamians and giving the Exhumers a huge boost to their economy.
We were out there working and all of a sudden I see a cop show up and they're shutting down the job site. Why? Because these guys aren't paying national insurance.
So we're 1 week out. The local authorities are starting to ask questions. The festival site is beginning to look more like a refugee camp. And to top it all off, the Fyre Festival Instagram page has decided to shut off their comment section.
And so they didn't cancel the festival.
It was chaos. At the end, I was like, this ain't happening. I'm getting a flight out of here.
But Billy sees the light at the end of the tunnel and makes the executive decision to ride this thing out.
Before we had the worst luck, I think we had the best luck. And like, it sounds crazy, but so many things had to go right to make it this big of a failure. And everybody fully believed that we were going to put on an event that was going to change the landscape and deliver an experience people will talk about for years.
Fyre Festival, baby, here we go.
So this Fyre Festival, right? It's like history in the making. It's going to be interesting one way or another.
Tomorrow morning at 5:30, half of the Jerry Media crew is going to Fyre Festival in the Bahamas, on a remote island.
Going to the Bahamas. Wow.
Bahamas, we're coming for you, baby.
All right, we are here in the private jet.
It's actually worse than like really like being like low economy class.
But the economy plane ticket would be the least of their worries, as the guests would soon land and embark on their journey of a lifetime. First, they were driven by a luxury chauffeur.
So we were all packed into the yellow school bus.
This was maybe 10 or 15 minute drive.
But as they got closer to the festival site, the guests started to notice the presence of many red flags.
There was no one from Fyre Festival on the bus. The bus driver just knew where to go. And he's telling us, oh yeah, like they didn't start construction on any of this until maybe a month ago. Or, oh yeah, like you're really in for something. Just wait until you see what you're getting yourselves into.
Oh no! Turn this bus right around!
Guests paid thousands of dollars for what they thought were luxury tents and villa packages. And what they got in return were a bunch of disaster relief shelters.
Mattresses stacked up along the road.
That's an air mattress. That's an air mattress.
Around 500 guests were now stranded in the Bahamas, and I wish I could tell you that there are at least 500 readily available tents.
I mean, this is just crazy. There's like 50 tents that are ready and all the rest aren't.
This is not what we signed up for. Sit.
Oh my God. They're soaking wet.
Maybe it was a coincidence, or maybe it was an act of God, but the night before the guests were set to arrive, a massive hurricane would hit the islands of the Bahamas.
Oh, Jesus! Maybe we all get to burn it down at the end.
But there was a silver lining for some of the guests, because if you had managed to rack up enough followers and enough influence, the Fyre team may have honoured their promise to a luxury villa package.
Look at this kitchen!
We actually did have a villa. We felt real bad.
So there Billy was, in the centre of it all. And as more guests arrived and began to outnumber the amount of tents, Billy knew he had to act quickly. So that's when he came up with his brightest idea.
Free for all.
Fyre Festival, it's an absolute circus. I don't know what's going on. I hate you for telling me to come here. I hate you. I hate you.
Telling everyone it's a free-for-all, so just find an empty tent and grab it, so this whole place is pretty fun.
Some guests scrambled to find themselves a tent, others scrambled to find themselves some alcohol. Billy, on the other hand, he was looking for his best friend and co-founder.
Find Ja Rule, get hold of this motherfucker so I can make sense of all this. Where is Ja?
Guests did their best to remain calm while the situation unfolded, but when the sun went down, the camaraderie was over.
It's about to be pitch black out here. People are panicking.
It became this looting mentality.
People was just walking with mattresses on top of their head.
We didn't want neighbors. My buddy pissed on a few of the beds.
There was absolutely zero organization.
They brought out the luggage in 2 big containers, like truck containers, like 18-wheeler containers. They just said, everyone grab your bag. And it was just a frenzy.
It only took a few bad actors to shatter any illusion of order. Many guests grabbed whatever they could and spent the night clinging to their luggage. Some guests described the events as similar to the Hunger Games, but I like to think it was more like Lord of the Flies.
Like 5 or 6 hours later, we still don't have our luggage.
What the fuck are we gonna do?
We got Ja Rule on the phone. Let's see what Ja's thoughts are on this tragedy.
Who gives a fuck what Ja Rule thinks at a time like this? This is ridiculous. I don't want to dance, I'm scared to death.
Every headliner has backed out.
I'm supposed to be getting on a jet ski with Kendall Jenner. Like,
Welcome to the crazy, fucking ridiculous, awful, crazy, ridiculous life of Dylan. Where today's episode, I am stranded in the Bahamas.
But it wasn't until this image was posted on Twitter that Fyre Festival would really go up into flames. Months of questionable planning had become immortalized into one image. That goddamn cheese sandwich.
And I blame the cheese sandwich for bringing down the festival.
While all of this was playing out, you may be wondering why the guests didn't just head back to the airport. You see, Billy coincidentally booked the festival during the island's biggest holiday.
It's called the National Regatta.
The regatta meant that all accommodation on the island was booked months in advance. And as it turns out, catching a plane back to Miami wasn't going to be an easy task either.
Okay, how long till water comes? And food.
When do we get our money back?
Guests would then be held hostage, like literally chained in. It wasn't entirely clear why the festival guests were chained in, and it definitely didn't help that some of the guests were beginning to pass out.
One guy passed out and they had to take him to the hospital.
People were starting to yell and scream. They brought like police from the island into the room to calm people down.
But thankfully, Fyre Festival would end with no casualties. A plane would eventually arrive, and the guests couldn't have been more happy to return to their first world paradise.
We made it!
Please take your seat and fasten your seatbelts. Thank you.
Basically the exact opposite of everything we were promised.
We had no electricity, there was no showers, there was no bathrooms, there was no like running water.
They need to be held responsible because they basically abducted us.
Crazy.
And then things just blew up.
Fyre Music Festival hit with a class action lawsuit.
Fyre Festival.
Major festival fail.
Or like a disaster relief campsite.
Epic Fyre Music Festival.
Rapper Ja Rule and entrepreneur Billy McFarland co-founded the event. Plain cheese sandwiches and salad after the chef backed out.
Quickly spiraling into chaos. Now the event's co-founder is facing up to 20 years in prison.
We took a big jump here and a big risk, and D1 has failed. Thank you guys. I'll read your comment later. Thank you.
Hey, Billy, there's a bunch of people who's filing lawsuits against you today in federal court. You hear about that?
Billy owed a ton of money, to say the least. And there were a lot of people who didn't get paid. But that wasn't going to stop him from maintaining his entrepreneurial image.
I'm in the AMG, no bitch, you better not play with me. This ain't no 50 coming up busy, cop to 63.
The Fyre Media company was now on life support, and Billy was calling in an urgent team meeting.
So are you firing me?
We're not firing anybody. We're just letting you know that there'll be no payroll in the short term. So there's no more official employment.
So you're not going to lay us off, which would allow us to file for unemployment benefits. You just are not going to pay us anymore and then making us quit ourselves. Is that kind of what we're saying?
Sorry, what was the question?
Question is this: you are not going to lay us off so that we can't file for unemployment benefits. What you're going to do is just not pay us, forcing us to then quit. Is that kind of what we're saying?
I'm not aware of how this impacts the employment benefits.
Asking stupid fucking questions, you know that's just how it goes.
Music Festival? Yeah. Did you hear about this in the Bahamas? It was a disaster. It was a big disaster. The bands didn't show up. Nothing was ready. Now the organizers are being sued for $100 million. When asked how they're going to raise the money, they said, how about a music festival?
We're going to make Fyre Festival 2018 happen.
They say that Mr. Omi, here I go, I'm back again. I never left, I just been planning this destruction to begin.
All ticket holders will receive a full refund and a VIP ticket to next year's Fyre Festival.
Next year?
If they decide to go.
Really?
Exactly.
Next year?
The Fyre Festival was now a household name.
His All Elite Wrestling debut to take on the bad boy himself, Joey Janela. You talk about carnage, you talk about...
Believe it or not, people paid over $12,000 to sleep in these tents and listen to Swedish DJs for an entire weekend.
And then there was the Saturday Night Live skit.
They did a Fyre Festival on Saturday Night Live.
You guys are tripping out at Burning Man. Meanwhile, I'm stranded at the Fyre Festival.
This Fyre Festival fiasco really put a strain on Billy and Ja's relationship. The pair would decide to go their separate ways, putting an end to the friendship that was meant to last forever.
This morning, musician and Fyre Festival co-founder Ja Rule in the hot seat. Twitter users not mincing words. Fraud, liar, manipulator, demanding to know what Ja Rule knew and when.
Ja Rule was conveniently on tour while the Fyre Festival went up into flames. He would go on to post a formal explanation on his Twitter account, apologizing for the event while simultaneously claiming it wasn't his fault. And as for the cheese sandwiches, well, Ja had his own separate explanation for that.
Just really think about it. If there was only bologna sandwiches and cheese sandwiches, you think there was only one picture of the bologna sandwich that's floating around? Yeah. Just one picture with 1,000 people on the island? People didn't really know I had anything to do with the festival. successful
until they went wrong. That's the crazy part. That's the truth.
You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know.
And then it was like,
then they
Ja Rule's festival.
Because they're trying to blame somebody.
Hold up. You know what I'm saying? You gotta relax.
You're just a partner. You're an investor.
Ja maintains that he was also a victim of the festival.
The music mogul firing back, tweeting, "I too was hustled, scammed, bamboozled, hoodwinked, led astray."
Ja Rule was eventually dismissed from the class action lawsuit filed by the attendees of the festival. Ja would take a massive hit to his reputation, but legally, he basically got off scot-free. The same can't be said for his business partner.
The other guy's going to jail, is that true?
He's in trouble. He's in some trouble.
It was time for Billy to face the music, and I definitely left out some important details along the way. Court records give an account into Billy's upbringing, so once again,
let's take it back to where it all started.
As a child, Billy was always ahead of the curve. He walked and talked well before the norm. By age 5, he was a proficient swimmer. By age 10, a seasoned scuba diver. But Billy's mother believed his gifts were both a blessing and a curse, because Billy was never satisfied with the success that he found at an early age. His mind was always consumed on finding the next big thing, and maybe that's why he dropped out of university in his freshman year. Billy could only ever think big.
Hey, wait up! Are you quitting? This place stinks. It's a lazy rich kids wasting their time. I got bigger plans.
But his big plans would require bigger investments, so Billy told a few small lies to get the ball rolling.
So we're 20 months in, and we just eclipsed 10,000 members. We have 100,000 customers around the globe.
Billy falsely claimed that he had more than $2 million in Facebook stock, when in fact he had about $1,500. Billy claimed that they had been given an island in the Bahamas worth $8 million, when in fact they had not.
And as fate would have it, investors were there to take the bait.
McFarland courting investors by showing them altered financial statements that inflated his personal wealth and telling them his company raked in millions of dollars over the last 2 years. The real revenue, less than $60,000.
Billy knew what his investors would do to him if they found out the truth. And he couldn't finesse money off them forever, so he came up with a few alternative ways to reduce his expenses.
So there was a group of Bahamian locals that built the festival site. 100 day laborers working around the clock, no sleep. They were never paid.
My gosh, there had to have been probably at some point like 200 people.
It was like an island was robbed.
American rapper, singer, and actor Ja Rule, also known as Jeffrey Atkins, is in the Bahamas with his business partners to discuss the details of a concert next month.
Everybody was saying, hey, that's Fyre. They have lots of money. They could do anything.
So we hope this is the first of many steps to bring entertainment, to bring talent back to the Bahamas.
This was supposed to go on for 5 years every year. So if you do good, you asked for 5 years, you got the contract, so you wanted to live up to the expectation.
A lot of people didn't get paid. A lot of my workers didn't get paid.
I went through about $50,000 of my savings that I could have had for rainy day. And they just wipe it out and never look back. Personally, I don't even like to talk about the Fyre Festival. Just take it away and just let me start a new beginning.
Billy would take on high-interest loans to help offset all the money he owed. But these were short-term loans, so he needed one more fraudulent scheme, the Fyre Band scam. Under the guise of a genuine wireless payment system, wristbands were used to take as much money from customers as possible.
Our reporting found that plan itself raised about $2 million.
But this still wasn't even close to enough.
Billy had said, listen, we're into this for $25 million. I'm like, oh my gosh, Billy, sheepers.
So Billy insisted that they go through with the Fyre Festival, even if that meant giving up his soul to bring it to life.
Quantum power!
So what did we learn in today's video? Well, we learned how important it is to manage expectations. We learned not to trust things that sound too good to be true. But most importantly, we learned about the impact of social media marketing.
Instagram, social media marketing, influencer marketing is the most impactful form of marketing for an entire generation.
That's right, it was the models who built up this festival, and they didn't even have to show up. They just posted one orange tile.
Some festival goers truly thought that the models were going to be at the party.
There were a few big names who faced some repercussions, but in the end, we saw who got the last laugh.
How was the Fyre Festival?
But the funniest part of this whole situation is just how much information there was out there proving this festival was a fraud.
I'm screaming this from a rooftop, and there's no one listening.
A few internet sleuths were able to piece together the lies, and one would even go as far as posting these on an anonymous Twitter account. But Ja Rule flat out denied these allegations of fraud, and with his plethora of legal knowledge, he'd go on to characterize the situation in a much more accurate way.
That's not fraud. That's not fraud. That is, I would call that false advertising.
But let's not put too much blame on Ja. Billy was the only one who was sent to prison after all.
It was my idea, my vision to do this.
So I guess we'll just chalk this up to one young entrepreneur with 8 figures of venture capital in his pocket and an impossible dream.
So we're taking the dream for your average person in America or wherever they are and saying for 3 days you could become Pablo Escobar.
I actually wouldn't be surprised if 10 years down the line we're going to be hearing about Billy McFarland starting some kind of other venture that's, you know, imaginative and gets some serious momentum, and, you know, this all happens in some form again.
Hey guys, it's Billy McFarland. As you might know, I effed around. And because of that, I definitely found out. Obviously, I've had a little bit too much time to think about this, but I do feel like the moment's right to start making this up to everybody.
So I guess Billy's out of prison now, and he's back with a plan to pay off that $26 million debt. Can Billy McFarland make a comeback? I don't see why not. We've seen some similar redemption stories. How about we start with an influencer boxing match? Billy McFarland versus Ja Rule.
Okay, what about a boxing match?
Yeah, I'm in. So I'm ready to go.
So you know,
but in all seriousness, Billy knows he probably doesn't have any chance in paying off his debt by working a traditional career. So there's no doubt that he's eventually going to go back to the risky business plays.
I need to do what I'm good at. That's starting a business.
Not a festival.
Not a festival.
Oh.
We can get into that. Starting a business.
Whoa.
It's been 6 years since the original Fyre Festival event, and it really is looking like Fyre Festival 2 will soon become a reality. The Fyre Festival 2 website is up and running, and if you're watching this at the right time, you can actually submit a form and potentially become an attendee, an employee, or if you're looking to take on a bit of risk, maybe even as an investor. Billy hasn't gotten into much trouble since his release. He's gone on quite a bit of press tours, done a bunch of interviews, and now he's looking like he wants to run with the memes, having recently posted this short video on his Twitter account.
Andy!
Oh my God, Billy? Round 2?
Yes, but first, we're going to Coachella.
Whoa, wait. This didn't go so well last time.
Breaking news, Billy McFarland's Fire Pig Fights models bomb.
And there's so much that can go wrong.
Not this time. Link in bio. Cut.